So I've been learning more about gematria, which is the way that we can look at words and then find Hebrew equivalents and then do calculations, and then we find connections that we didn't know were there, because the Hebrew alphabet corresponds to the tarot, and the tarot corresponds to elements, etc. So it's like a multivariate language, and it's taken me a long time to get into this stuff without being a bit squeamish, because my mind or my intellect knows that I'm looking for stuff on purpose. I'm looking for coincidences on purpose. I know that the exact lettering translations don't matter so much, so it doesn't, because in English Hebrew doesn't have a direct equivalent. So basically, my intellect's going, this is all a bit arbitrary, isn't it? This isn't real. You're not really discovering stuff unless you're saying that it's from your own mind, but you could do that with anything, kind of thing. I've come to realize that gematria does have a very, very powerful effect, and it does lead you to realize things that you wouldn't realize if you didn't do it, because the Hebrew alphabet and the tarot arcana have a very nice language, but you might say the language is just what people have made up. It's just, it's also arbitrary. English is more arbitrary. English and the modern programming that you already have is more superstitious. It's less of a pure language than Hebrew and tarot. That was something that I really, that opened up, because I knew that doing this was already helping my intellect. I felt like, I was getting more illumined through doing the geometric exercises, like, the numbers and, work out what means what, and then what else means, you can look up how to do that. But my intellect needed an answer as to why to do it. And I've realized that English itself is far more superstitious, far more arbitrary, far more fake than Hebrew and tarot. That language of Hebrew and tarot, let's put them together, is formed as it's much closer to what you might consider a pure language, or a whole language, or a balanced language. Going that direction from English to look at the connections may not get you there perfectly. You can't just rigidly learn all of this stuff and then understand. But what it does is it hints at it. So you'll move away from English and you'll start... Well, you won't move away from English, but you'll move away from the grammar that you're used to and start moving towards a kind of pure, natural, whole way of clustering meaning. And your mind, I'm starting to think, infers the rest of the process. It's like, well, if we can see things like that, then I now have an idea on how to make a pure language for myself, so to speak, like a pure self language. And then I was also thinking, like, the tarot deck is 78 cards, and we actually have our own deck in our language. So we have the 7 question arcana in English, which is also arbitrary. You have 7, why 7 question words? But we do. We have when, who, where, what, how, why, which. And when is to do with time, and where is to do with place, and who is to do with person, and how is to do with method. And these are 7 that come out, and we start using those words. But we don't always use them exactly. Like, we don't have the Hebrew equivalents and tarot equivalents exactly. We might say, when will you be there? Or how long will you be? And in that case, how and when are kind of matching, so they kind of go together. But when doesn't mean literally how. And when can be more soft, like, when we relax, or it could be when the sun, rises exactly. So we've thinking about clusters of meaning and how things map, how we map meaning. We have a precise, we have a default way in which we've been programmed to do that, which is modern, and it's distorted. It's not. We don't get our mind, unfortunately, doesn't get a chance to try and be whole and to rectify various competing perspectives, which is funny because I've just said that in English and I can't, and that didn't really capture it. What does capture it is the moon and the sun in geometria. So rather than me saying, oh, we got these half perspectives, which are true in of themselves, but we need to marry them all up and then become whole so we can see everything. Another way to say it is the moon card is half-truth. The moon card corresponds to the letter Kof in Hebrew, and Kof, the Hebrew letter, means the back of head. And Kof also is also numerically 100. Okay. The sun card is the next one. And the sun corresponds to Resh, the Hebrew letter meaning head, and the number is 200. So you do that and you think, well, yeah, the moon is Kof, back of head, half truth, half of perspective, not quite, and it's 100 as well. And the sun, Resh, is 200, which is the head. And then I'm already inferring, okay, moon, half truths, competing perspectives, that's only half of the truth. 100 is half of 200, right? And Resh is the whole head. Resh is 200. It's when you marry the dualities, because 100 times 2 is 200. And then Resh is the whole head. That makes sense. And that's an example of the way that this language is more kind of reflective of nature and the various ways in which nature is a self-embedding process of similitude, or, now I'm trying to say it in English, it's clunky. There's many ways I can say it, and many ways I can be falsely understood because I don't mean anything particularly. I'm using certain patterns that I can intuitively apply in many ways, a bit like a master sorting hat. So, yeah, this is to say that English is more arbitrary and superstitious, you could say, and fake than the Hebrew tarot language. And this is why it works. And this is one reason why it works. It's not the reason why it works, because that article is this is the reason why it works. That will also lead to misunderstanding, because if I'm saying, oh, it's just repatterning, then you might hear that to say I don't believe in spirit, see, or I don't believe that there's a deeper, holier reality behind this stuff. So, but nonetheless, this language provides a way of seeing that hints at that kind of pure perception. Like, if we were all enlightened beings, what would we start using to create a pure language, where a pure language that applies to this level and this level and this level and this level at the same time? With that, so we would be able to speak and we wouldn't have any cause to create false assumptions or to infer a direct command of you must, an obligation or an agreement of something that we didn't really understand properly at the time, which is the cause of all of this modern distortion. We don't understand each other properly. So we don't understand ourselves properly. Let's get that out the way first. That pure language is a certain recycling, not recycling, but a cycling of kind of the combination of saying something that's true, saying something that you are expressing to direct one's attention towards, and to also change the energy to improve it and to help and to make it healthier, and to use the mind as treat the mind as the interface that it is, which is what magicians do. They don't watch, well, see, this is like English again, I'm going, don't. They will, yes, they'll watch videos about topics and read books about topics because they want to learn about the subject matter, etc. But initiates really understand that the mind is something to use. So not just, I'm going to learn this thing about why this is this, but I'm talking like staring at a circle for an hour. I'm talking like surrounding yourself in a room full of green things and singing for an hour to activate your relationship with nature, like like input output kind of thing, not things that are exclusively built in this kind of linear logic system of I'm going to read all of this subject, but I'm still confined to my perception of modern programming. So I'm just going to look at this argument, but I'm not paying attention to all the deeper aspects of my psyche that require me to live in wholeness. So anyway, all that is to say that we need to pop the balloon. We have a balloon, and these practices pop the balloon. That's why we have to get in there. That's why when we do I Ching, we can't just look. We can look it up online, but it does do something. But it's better to get in there and do the coin flipping, and because you're basically you're showing yourself that you, first of all, you're admitting that you have a balloon as well, and then you're saying, right, let's start where I am. Let's say a word comes up for the day. Let's find a geometric thing for that, because I want to use that word as the entry point to then bring this pure language of Hebrew tarot. Could be another language, I think. No, I'm not going to say that for the time being. Use a pure language, or sort of use the word that's been brought to me for the day. Let's say a word's come up. And then see how I can puncture that in, and let's use Hebrew to so I can absorb these symbols, which relate to 22 letters, 22 specific or aspects of phenomenon as they are, which our English alphabet doesn't do, which our English dictionary doesn't do. And we'll just puncture it in. Because you need to admit that you're not where your consciousness isn't whole, so we need to get something in there to do something with it. Like you get some nice little ants, which are like the letters, and then you go, right, okay guys, this word keeps coming up for me today. Let's do some geometria. Okay, go, and then these letters are gonna go. Oh, okay, we'll use this letter. But then we can find some correspond. Okay. And then you go in, you draw on the letters, and you're making them all really nice and precise. And they're going in, and they start reshuffling stuff in your consciousness. And then you start going, oh yeah, that word corresponds to that word. And I didn't really feel like, my hands are. And then you realize stuff that's true. Like, wow, my hands are my hands are a projection of reality. My hands, to use the word hand, for example. You might just think about hands as, oh, I've got a hand. But your hand is you wield your hand, and you manifest, you change physical reality with this. Oh yeah, and your hand's a bit like this is physical, and then your mouth is like the mental one, or the airy one. Oh, I didn't know that. My hand is a bit like a mouth. Oh, I never realised that before. Okay, maybe we can think, maybe that will help me in life. So I've got a hand here, which is and I've got a pen as well, so I express physically with my hand, and I express airily or verbally with my mouth. Okay, cool. I have now, if you might have inferred, sort of done a strange thing. I didn't even do gematria there. I was just kind of messing around, really, but it reminded me of a gematria thing I watched yesterday, so that's why that came up. So your intellect's now satisfied in a sense, because you can be like, okay, I did some silly mind stuff there, but I've actually learned something real from that, and something my intellect can go, oh yeah, actually, I've actually gotten something out of it that even my intellect likes, which is that I can treat my hands as a teaching tool and my mouth. Okay, I've already learned so much that I've got to, my body language helps me learn, helps me teach, helps me think. So if my hands are restricted on a bus, maybe I'm carrying something and I'm trying to plan something, maybe I need to put my stuff down and start thinking with my hand. That's going to help me in rational life, because I now know that. And then you could tell someone else the thing that you learned intellectually, like, oh yeah, you're having a hard time thinking, but maybe you are carrying a lot right now. Put it down and maybe just let your hands relax a bit, and then you'll be able to think better. So, and yod means hand, by the way, and yod is the Hebrew letter which means hand, and it's 10. We've got 10 fingers. Okay, cool. And it's the hermit. Okay, thinking to myself. Okay, carrying something, and So, and this learning this stuff will give you not an upper hand. I don't want to say that. It will give you a better version of your own thinking. Anyway, that was a big ramble, but that, I believe, will help. I hope you enjoyed.